we want to analyze and think about things a little bit deeper. By comparing law and precepts, then you understand the precepts better, is it not? Okay, see it from this point of view. Okay, we compare. Okay, what are our precepts? The basic precepts. Everybody familiar? Yes. Okay. All right. Now, we know about the 5 precepts. We chant this every Sunday. The law on crime, you find it in this statute called the Penal Code. You want to know more about the Penal Code? Google. Everything is there. All right. So we're comparing 5 precepts and the Penal Code provisions. First precept. Do not kill. The law, you have all this. Punishment against murder, you get a death sentence. Manslaughter, maximum life sentence plus caning. Causing death by rash or negligent act, maximum 5 years, 2 to 5 years. Attempted suicide, 1 year. Infanticide, life sentence. Genocide, death sentence. Murder, you plot, you plan, you want to take away a life. Very culpable, death sentence. Manslaughter, we're talking the culpability is not at the max. That means you killed because you were provoked to kill. Hey, hello, I didn't want to kill him, but he say, I'm an asshole, I got so angry, I killed. I lost control of myself. That, you get life sentence. Causing death by rash or negligent act, very common. If you drive and you still check your phone, check for messages, then accidentally you cause a death, this is what happens. Attempted suicide, infanticide, usually for postnatal depression, seldom happen, but I think it does, once in a while. Genocide, this happens usually in America where you just kill a lot of people. You notice the difference between the precept and the penal code provision? Penal code provision looks at culpability. Serious, not so serious, less serious. And you have punishment meted out, commensurating with the culpability. Our precept, don't kill, is you don't kill, period, And you don't kill human beings and animals. Penal code provision is only about human beings. If you look at the precept avoiding killing, if I take a chicken, I chop the chicken head, your intention is to take away life. When Buddha told us about this precept and want us to abide by it, is to watch your mind. What kind of mental state will cause a person to kill? Greed, hatred, or delusion, is it not? Greed, because I want something that I do not have, you do, I cannot stand you. More often than not, it's ill will, hatred. I really cannot stand you, I want to take you away. And delusion, you think that killing is right. So, when you kill an animal, it's exactly the same mental state. I kill the chicken because I want to eat the chicken. That is greed. You don't possibly hate the chicken. So, all teachings of Sammasambuddha is avoid evil, do good, and purify the mind. Avoid evil is avoid the 3 bad mental states of greed, hatred, and delusion. Understand? So this is the first precept vis-a-vis the penal code provision. Next, avoid stealing. Now look at the penal code provision. Punishment against theft, maximum 3 years. Theft of motor vehicle, maximum 7 years. Theft in dwelling house, 7 years. Theft by clerk or servant of property in possession of master, 7 years. Theft after preparation made for causing death or hurt in order to commit theft, 10 years. See again? If you look at this, when you steal from 7-Eleven, 3 years. But if you go to someone's house and steal from somebody, it's more culpable. And of course, if you breach your fiduciary duty, also more culpable than stealing in 7-Eleven. And of course, if you cause hurt in the process of stealing, maximum 10 years. You notice again, right? It has different stages of severity of the crime. But in our precept, you just don't steal, period, whether from here or there. What kind of mental state accompanies stealing? Again, greed. You want something other people have, you don't have. You got craving, you got clinging. Hatred. I do not like you. I love what you have. I know by taking away will cause you grief, so I steal. Greed, hatred, delusion. Second precept, avoid stealing. Now, for stealing, under the penal code provision, we have a lot more. All right. Okay. These are the 5 precepts. Everybody know this. Okay, here. You see, punishment against extortion, robbery, gang robbery, criminal misappropriation of property, criminal breach of trust, receiving stolen goods, cheating, fraudulent deeds and dispositions of property, piracy, counterfeiting coins and government stamps, currency notes and bank notes, offences relating to weights and measures. You notice, right, a lot to do with wealth and protection of wealth. All right? Now, our precept stealing, even if you download illegal material in your computer, that is also stealing, because you got to watch your mind. What kind of mental state arises in the mind? Okay, this is the second precept. Let's look at the third. Avoid sexual misconduct. But the penal code provision simply say punishment against rape, molest, outrage of modesty, sex with minor under 16, commercial sex with minor under 18, and incest. If you cheat on your spouse, is it a crime? It's not a crime. You don't get charged for cheating. But our precept, avoid sexual misconduct. What kind of mental states? Greed, hatred, and delusion. You're not satisfied with your spouse, what? Because you feel that someone else is better. Someone else can give you more sensual gratification. Then you throw away loyalty, you throw away commitment, you throw away your marital vow. Greed, hatred, and delusion. Don't be surprised. Sometimes people cheat because you cheated on me before, now I'm going to cheat on you again. Ill will, bad mental state. Third precept. Let's look at the fourth. Avoid false speech. Under the penal code provision, what do you have? Punishment against cheating, criminal defamation, criminal intimidation, insult, and annoyance. Nowadays, if you want to make a police report against somebody for defaming you, the police will say, you're going to take out a civil suit. Criminal defamation, intimidation comes about normally, let's talk about defamation, is when you insult the judiciary, for example, or a person who holds an office of integrity. And the police feels that it's severe enough for the Attorney General to do a charge. But normally, all right, it invites a civil suit. Defamation means you say something false about someone, and that person suffered damage. Okay? Intention to hurt that somebody, and it's false. And it's not said in public interest, it's not said in interest to protect someone. That is defamation. Criminal intimidation is when you make a threat to harm that person, harm that person's loved ones, take away his property, to force him to do an act. That is criminal intimidation. Now you notice again, right? Penal code provision is when there is some harm done. Our fourth precept, you just don't say anything that is not true. Because your mind is not straight. When you lie, can you imagine the kind of delusion you have in your mind? It's also more often than not caused by greed, hatred, and delusion. You don't tell a person the truth. You owe the person the truth. You want to lie. Your mind is very noisy. But is it just for speech? Under the Noble Eightfold Path, under right speech, what do you have to do? You must exercise true speech. You cannot use harsh speech, no scandal speech, and no idle chatter, no vain talk. Now, out of the 4, which one's the hardest to do? Gossip. Yeah. Vain talk, idle chatter is actually gossip, right? And gossip leads to misunderstanding more often than not. And if you gossip means talking without purpose. Idle chatter means you have no purpose for the talk. You just talk for the sake of talking. Then when you talk for the sake of talking, you normally will end up talking about events, people, then you have a lot of views, then you become very judgmental. Then in being judgmental, you may defame someone, you have scandalous speech, you may not even know it. Can you imagine? So idle chatter can also be very dangerous. So we watch our speech. Because speech is so important, is it not? Speech degrade a person, it can boost a person. Speech can seal the love between couples. Speech can also divide a nation. The importance of speech, one cannot underestimate. So, a 4th precept, no lying, period, no excuses. Next, the 5th precept of avoid intoxicants. Penal code provision, no punishment for consuming alcoholic drinks, but drink driving and consumption of drugs. So in other words, is it a crime to drink? No, you can drink and get drunk. You can harm yourself. The government doesn't care. It's your life. But the 5th precept by Lord Buddha, you don't drink, avoid alcohol that cause heedlessness. Don't take drugs. Why? Why? In this entire world, what is the thing that you have complete control? Can you control tsunami? Can you control traffic? Can you control the minds of your infants and the minds of your children? Can you even control this body? You know your body doesn't ask you for permission to fall sick. You also know the body is aging day after day. And when it's time to die, you don't want to die, but you must die. The only thing in this entire universe that you have absolute control over is how you think, your mind. So if you're going to take intoxicants, take drugs that come and affect your mind, can you imagine? Your life is what your mind makes it out to be. What you hold in your mind on a consistent basis is what makes you you. Why risk it? If you breach this 5th precept, you drink a lot, you lose mindfulness, do you think you can easily breach the other 4? One night, Correct? So, I know the importance of the 5th precept. Because I know there are a lot of people who keep asking me, a little bit of drink, never mind lah, a little bit, never mind. But a little bit can get addicted. You remember the mind, the habitual tendencies of the mind is to crave and cling. So you start drinking a glass of wine every night. The 5th night, you don't drink, you cannot sleep already. Let me tell you how to get to that feeling. When after you drink a few sips of wine, you feel very good, right? Your mind very quiet. Suddenly, very quiet, can't remember the past. You can get that by meditation. So cheap. Just sit down on the floor, sit there, a chair, on your bed. Got the same feeling. Why must you drink something that's bad for your cholesterol, a lot of sugar content, and age you even faster? Okay, so these are the precepts. You notice, laws are there for what? So that people can live harmoniously with each other. Correct? The more advanced a society is, the more efficient the government is, you have more laws. The laws is just simply to govern this. Live harmoniously. So for example, it down to the very little thing like, in Singapore, there is an act that prohibit vendors from selling chewing gum. Okay? And then there is another act under the Mass Rapid Transit Act, a regulation that prohibit you from taking chewing gum when you're on the train or on the premises. You have 2 different laws dealing with this. Why? So that we can live harmoniously with one another, our public service will work. Okay, do you know there is actually a law also to say, a lot of people do not know this, that you must flush your toilet. If you don't flush immediately after use, can fine up to $100. It's just that you don't see policemen in the toilets, so a lot of people get away with it. So actually, if you Google Singapore laws and statutes, we have a lot of laws. And the purpose of the law is so that we can all get along very harmoniously. Different from precepts. Okay? So on the surface, both are stating what ought not to be done to create a safe environment for human beings to live in. Skill set required to study the subject, understanding what our laws are, analysis, and practice. All you must exercise restraint. Criminal law in Singapore, no limitation period. So if you commit a crime 20 years ago, you can still be charged if you are found out. In Taiwan, 12 years only. Got limitation. But Singapore, it's no limitation period, same as karma. You kill somebody, the bad karma that you generated, it's not going to just last you this lifetime, many lifetimes. Okay? No limitation period. Difference between law and precepts. Man-made, laid down by Parliament, elected representatives of the general population, and it will reflect the thinking and the culture of the time. I mean, if you go to Middle East, some countries, it's okay to have more than one wife. So it really depends on the culture and perception, the value system of the society. Laid out by Buddha. Prohibition, offense, punishment imposed by others is in statute. Refrains, voluntary, no external punishment imposed by others. Keeping of 5 precepts, basic for all Buddhists, makes a complete person. So really, honestly, Buddha didn't say, right, you don't do this, you got this punishment. You don't do this, you got this punishment. Because in the society, if you don't give up, met up punishment, you're going to have problems. People will keep stealing from others, especially when they're not cultivated. They will steal, they will kill, they will rob. Because of the punishment, people exercise restraint. But for the 5 precepts, it's given by Buddha. Nobody say anything about punishment. You exercise your own restraint. You exercise your own wisdom. You tell yourself, do I keep to the precepts? And you know, when you have morality, your mind quietens down very fast. If you have greed, hatred, and delusion, brothers and sisters, you quarrel with somebody this morning, you sit down here, you tell me you can meditate or not? Cannot. Okay? So the next thing about law, it does not deal with morality per se. If uncaught in this lifetime, one escapes punishment by law. No, you just don't get caught. Karma, result clear conscience, can meditate easily, peaceful and safe environment for all sentient beings, ideal that we can help create just by following precepts. Let's talk about the morality part. Why are we Buddhists? Buddha's formula to us is to help all sentient beings be able to experience unconditioned happiness. Right now, the happiness that we are experiencing, right, are based on external circumstance. You get a promotion, very happy. Children do very well, very, very happy. Got good food to eat every day, you can go to visit this restaurant and that restaurant, very happy. I'm very healthy, then I'm very happy. So the happiness is always conditional. It is dependent on external circumstances. Unconditioned happiness comes from inside your mind, your heart. You're happy, irregardless of what happens around you. Very, very zai. Correct? So let's say, for example, some people, you go to the office, you see someone walk towards you. You don't like the face already. Oh, I'm angry already. Look at you, I cannot stand it. If you are cultivated, your mind is strong and quiet, you look at that person totally unaffected. Your mind is protected by metta, called loving kindness. You're not affected by external circumstances because the happiness comes from inside your mind. You are able to control your thoughts. You have that sati, the mindfulness, to be able to say, I let go, let go, let go. You know, right? What that person does is the person's karma. How you respond to the person affects your own karma. So you're able to watch your reaction and you're able to have that, what you call unconditioned happiness. That only comes about if you exercise right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. In other words, meditate lah. Okay? Must meditate lah. Okay? To cultivate this mind. So you have this ability to control your thoughts and don't get. Before even anger arises, you know how to drop it. Before stress arises, you know how to drop it. And you know how to just abandon it. That is under right effort. Law can be locally right? Can be universally wrong. Precepts, universally right. Let me explain to you this by a quote by Ajahn Jayasaro. This is what he says. The quote is not here. Okay, never mind. War. Okay? Wrong to kill, right? Universally wrong. But then sometimes if you are a soldier, you have to go and kill, you have to do it. It doesn't mean that is right. So it's locally right, but universally wrong. There, the quote is here. Are Buddhist countries completely pacifist? This is what Ajahn says. Countries with predominantly Buddhist populations recognize, as do all countries, the need to defend their national interest. Whereas wars motivated by greed, jealousy, or hatred are seen as clearly immoral, most Buddhists would consider a war of self-defense a necessary evil. Nonetheless, it is recognized that those involved in fighting such a war would not be free from bad karma, as karma inevitably occurs with the intention to kill, however compelling the reason for it might be. In this view, the heroism of members of the armed forces would reside in their voluntarily taking on bad karma and the future suffering that it is consequence for the sake of the nation. In other words, don't join the army. If you have to join the army, pray that there is no war. Okay? Because it's still bad to kill. Preaching precepts. Second, death sentence, caning. All right? You're still taking away a life. That's the reason why I will never consider to be a judge. Because to be a judge, you sometimes have to hear criminal cases, and sometimes you may have to make up decisions to take away a life. Universally wrong, but locally right. Now you understand the examples I'm giving? Live seafood, Taking away a life, not. You go to seafood restaurant, I want to eat this, I want to eat this, I want to eat this. Are you directly taking away a life? What is in your mind? Greed, right? Okay. I know that a lot of people like to eat live seafood because it's very delicious. But understand, the fish, when they die, they actually die of a heart attack because they're out of breath for at least 5 to 6 minutes. The struggling, the suffering is immense. Okay? So just think about that. Don't go directly and take away. You can take frozen seafood or whatever not. Don't directly cost it. Okay, this is what Madam Venerable Gotami from the Pachapati Meditation Center in Sri Lanka told me. She's a psychic. She can see. Okay? She said one day, she was talking to a group and she says, don't go to live seafood restaurants and order seafood. Because when that consciousness die, okay, you notice crab. You tie up the crab, right? You notice how angry they are. The moment you cut off the string, they will hurt you. They have a lot of anger, They bound, they know they're going to get killed. So can you imagine, you caused that? She saw the consciousness of these beings into the person who caused them to die. She actually can see. Okay, it doesn't matter whether you believe or you do not believe. All you need to know is all these are beings too. They have consciousness, they experience fear, they also experience anger. Okay? So to me, do not try to avoid live seafood. Okay? What? Try to avoid live seafood. Try. Okay. Mistresses. Okay. Universally wrong, locally can be right. I mean, I know, in certain culture, you can have more than one wife. But for example, in Singapore, When you have mistresses, thinking that it's okay because your friends do and it's all right to flirt, look at your mind. The mental state of greed is there. On top of that, right, what are you doing? You're not only causing harm to yourself, you're causing harm to others. Buddha was telling Rahula, even if you don't remember all the precepts and what you have to do, what you don't have to do, it boils down to two things. No matter what you think, what you say, what you do, make sure you don't harm yourself and don't harm others. And when you cheat, who do you cause a lot of harm to? The person who loves you the most, your spouse. You hurt your children. All right? So, universally wrong. Red light district, prostitution. Okay in many countries, but we know a lot of, it's a flash trade, all right? Causing harm to oneself, it can also cause harm to other people. Especially now, with all kinds of diseases that's prevalent, and file sharing websites. Okay? It's still stealing. I talked about that earlier. Wait, so fast. Okay, wait. Sorry, these are not my slides. Okay, Brother Chow's slides. Okay, now you roughly know, right? Difference between precepts and law. Precepts, then why we have precepts for? Morality. Because if you have morality, your mind will be quiet. If your mind is very quiet, you will have a chance in this lifetime to experience unconditioned happiness, and that unconditioned happiness taken to the extreme is Nibbana. The precepts, of course, not only help Buddhists coexist harmoniously with each other, the precepts are very important for our mental cultivation. Let's look at the 6, 7, 8 precept, then you understand. What's the 6th precept? Do not eat at unsuitable times. Okay? Normally, no food after midday. The 7th precept, no perfume, no makeup, no TV shows, song and dance, no entertainment that will stimulate the senses. The 8th precept, no sleeping in at luxurious places. Again, the sense of touch. Now you'll be asking me, Sister Siew Fong, why these precepts? Remember I talked to you about having morality, and morality will help quieten down the mind? Okay. You know, right, from young till now, you have been trained to think. Since the day you were born, right, okay, maybe after a few months, your mother will sing you lullaby, will give you nursery rhymes, and start to teach you. You were taught to think from young. So you think, so your mind proliferate a lot of thoughts. To such an extent, it's so common nowadays to hear people telling you, do you know, I can't do nothing, I can never retire, I don't know what to do. Multitasking has become a virtue. Having a noisy mind has become a virtue. Like, you know, how come you're sitting there doing nothing, meditating? You must keep yourself busy. 50,000 to 80,000 thoughts a day float in and out of your mind. In and out, in and out. How many of you brush your teeth in the morning and seriously brush your teeth and enjoying the stroking motion? Am I very quiet, just brushing your teeth? Even when you're brushing your teeth, you're thinking about office. Even when you're driving, traffic light, phone, iPhone, check message, then go continue to drive. I go to a restaurant and you see a family seated together, waiting for the food to be served. I tell you, at least 3 will be looking at the iPhone and iPad. The mind just cannot quieten down. They just cannot be at the present. The floats just come in. So, to know how noisy the mind is, just take for a moment. You woke up already, you have slept enough. Then, I ask you to go inside the room. I take away your iPhone, I take away your iPad, I take away TV, I take away newspapers, I take away books. It's just one chair, go inside. 1 hour, you do not know mental cultivation, you'll go crazy. Mind has so much craving and clinging. So much craving and clinging for so many lifetimes, then you know why, right? We're still reborn in human realm. This craving and clinging has become a natural, habitual tendency of the mind already. And therefore, you need to quieten it down. If you don't, most people live life in accordance with the impact of the thoughts have on their minds. What comes in, they feel like doing this, they feel like doing that. To such an extent, when you look at food, I explain it as simple as I can. I give you a chocolate cake. The moment you look at chocolate cake, the thought processes come. Damn delicious, eat. Okay? If I were to just look at the chocolate cake and spit on it, put arsenic, the moment you look at it, I don't want to eat already, right? The mind takes over. A lot of people eat what their mind craves to eat, not what their body needs, because of the thought processes in their minds. You see the craving and clinging, the thoughts just come. That's why a lot of people find it very, very hard to diet, very hard to eat healthy, because I had a previous very nice experience of eating this food. It's so nice now, I just want to eat. Craving and clinging, eat. That is the reason why these precepts are very important, especially when you're going for retreats. For beginners, yes, go for retreats with 5 precepts. But for those who are practitioners, go for retreats with 8 precepts retreat, because the retreat will create an environment for you that will restrain your senses, so that your mind will quieten down much, much faster. When we see something, we chase. We hear something, we chase. All right? Our mind is always chasing for things. So in retreats, you want to practice noble silence and get your mind so quiet until you can see the Dharma. You must first exercise sense restraint. And the precepts, the first part on morality, the second part, the 6, 7, 8, helps you to exercise sense restraint so that your mind can be so quiet that you're able to see Dharma. Okay, seeing the Dharma, to you may not understand. Essentially, mind see the mind. Mind see that this mind and body are just 2 different parts. If you know how the mind works, you'll be able to control your mind to such an extent you will never feel unhappy, stressed, depressed, all the negative thoughts you will not have in your mind. Your mental space is very clean. Just imagine your mind to be like a room. This room has a lot of clutter. This clutter, you have diaries, notebooks, mementos, presents from a lot of people. So you clutter up this mind, this room, with a lot of things. So many things in this room. The older you are, the more things you have, because you collect a lot of memories, right? A lot of books, all the journals. One day, you decide to clean up this room. You keep all the books in this cupboard. You keep the journals in the other cupboard. All your drawings and paintings and gifts you put in neatly away in different cupboards. And then all of a sudden, you clean up the room because you can see the room. Now you really can see how big the room is. You can see every nook, every corner, every crevice, and every crack. That's how the mind is. You cannot see the mind now if you don't meditate. You have not meditated for a while, because the mind has a lot of clutter. And this clutter comes in the form of 50,000 to 80,000 thoughts a day. You've got to get rid of the clutter. You've got to come to a point of time where the natural habit of your mind is quiet. Right now, the habitual tendency is noisy. That's why it's important to create a habit of meditation every day. So meditate every night before you sleep. Get rid of all the clutter. Quieten it down, slow it down. So next, you won't be so reactive. Fill your mind with loving kindness so you have a peace and contentment. Have good sleep, dreamless sleep. You wake up in the morning feeling well and happy. Slow down the thinking process. So people who get angry easily, not patient, jealous very easily, very irritated very easily, don't exercise right speech. You heard in Chinese, right? 好像没有修养, right? You heard all this? Like not cultivated, why behave like that? So if you are more cultivated, you're able to control your thought processes and control your thoughts. The higher the chance you are to experience unconditioned happiness in this lifetime. Okay? Upon death, last chance to get enlightenment. Alright? So, dying. If your natural habitual tendency of the mind is quiet, loving kindness, compassion, appreciative joy, equanimity. Alright? And then, even if enlightenment is not your goal, your mind goes up, right? Heavenly world, isn't it? Can you imagine if you're dying at a time, your habitual tendency of the mind is anger, greed, this person, that person, I cannot let go of this, I worry about that, I worry about this. What will happen? Another rebirth. Another human rebirth. So learn how to let go. So I explain it this way. When you do mental cultivation, you're learning to control your thoughts. You're learning to let go when you want to let go. And that comes from cultivation. Sorry, I talk a bit. I know this is not the topic you want to hear, precepts and law, but I need to talk a bit about this. Understand, the precepts are there to help you to cultivate your mind and to realize Buddha's teachings. Buddha's teachings cannot be realized just by studying the Dhamma. You must practice. Then you will have your realization. Okay, that's the end of the talk. Sadhu, 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 sadhu. Okay. Any questions?
Yeah, thank you to Sister Siew Fong for the insightful sharing. So yeah, let's move to the Q&A, or maybe feedback, or maybe you want to share something. Please raise your hand. You have some question to ask?
Okay. Oh, I've been very clear. No questions. Very good.
Really no question? Or then maybe feedback, comment, want to share? Or maybe from your experience? Oh, okay.
Okay, I try to look at from different side of the, you talk about the ethic, I mean similar to precept, yeah? Because I'm dealing also with counseling something with regard with the prison. But come back to my subject here. Not question from me, I think from the other side, prison. If something which I don't like the person, but that person, or maybe whatever he say, or maybe whatever he do, is actually is not correct. I feel I'm correct. And as a Buddhist, the person actually is Myanmar. I believe he is a Buddhist. Yeah. So the subject is, and the question is, so I'm as a Buddhist, when I see something I disagree with what he is trying to put it, what I should do as a Buddhist? That is my question. A little bit general now. I may go further maybe later.
Yes. Agree to disagree. Don't let up in a fight or an argument. Because sometimes it's all about craving and clinging to perception and views. You know war started, right? How war started? Because of differences in perception and views. And the craving and clinging to it. He has expressed, you have expressed, you cannot persuade him or convince him. It doesn't matter, agree to disagree. Mind very quiet, let go, move on to the next thing. Yeah, that will be my advice. Yeah.
Okay, I fully agree with you, because I'm in line with that. But in the reality, to some extent, because we are living in the society.
Yes.
When you say about the people, actually there is also different culture.
Yes.
So speak about among the Buddhism. Among the Buddhism, we have also, we call it opinion.
Yes.
Depend on your background, depend on your interest, you know. So come back to this situation. A bit challenging. We have this kind of, we call it agree and disagree. To some extent, maybe can go further. When I say agree, disagree, it's not because we don't agree with the person, because we have the perception. You know, the mind. Eh? I mean, we're all talking about the same subject here, but many people have different perception on what we hear from the Dhamma talk now. So, I like to hear from you, from the different perception of you. That make the different opinion, yeah? And that opinion can create also a bit of criticizing. So from the Buddhist point of view, come back to the subject here, using the, maybe I can say using the precept, or maybe using what is the, we call it middle way, maybe to cut short. So how to encourage people to use the middle way with regard to different opinion?
When you say to have a middle way, you're talking about compromising of opinion and views. There are some situations, in fact, a lot of situations, where compromise cannot be reached. That's why in boards, you in executive committee, you know, differences happen. Sometimes you just have to go with the view of the majority or to go with the person with the executive power. Now, one must understand what is in a view. That view comes from your thought, the thought processes. What is in a thought? You have the four mental aggregates, isn't it, of feelings, of perception, mental volition, and consciousness. This comes and this goes, impermanent in nature. You may feel this way now, you may feel differently 5 years from now. Feelings, perception, mental volition, consciousness constantly change, depending on the environment, depending on your contact with certain situation. So when you meet somebody, and if that person has the same goal as you, if you both are working towards the same goal, like in an organization, chances are you will have less dispute because we're all working towards the same goal. But if you meet somebody who is just talking about something in general, be prepared that there will be differences of opinion and views. It's just a healthy discussion. Remember the precepts of telling the truth, no harsh speech, no scandalous speech, and no idle chatter or vain talk. You keep to it. If discussing leads you to something else, you may have a disagreement, a quarrel, totally avoid, not necessary. So to me, we just keep to our precepts, it should be fine. You will not find yourself in the same situation. Buddha, in many suttas, informed the bhikkhus and bhikkhunis that the only thing you want to talk about, if you want to talk, is to talk about Dhamma and how to improve your spiritual progress, how to get unconditioned happiness. Other than that, other things don't say. Then peaceful, okay. Talk with a purpose, so no idle chatter.
All right, any other question?
Yes, brother.
Can I just speak here?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say there's a false speech, right, which is not allowed. But if let's say our purpose was good, let's say we do a false speech to our mothers when our mother's asking like, am I looks good? And then if we say the truth, which is, no, you're not looking good or something, then our mothers will be disappointed or something, right? So to make to have a good purpose, to make our mothers feel happier, we have to praise her rather than to demotivate her by saying, yeah, you look pretty, even though she's not, something like that. Is it
This is when you use wisdom. You can tell the truth and you can avoid the truth, but you don't have to tell an untruth. You can always tell your mom, Mom, you know, as far as I'm concerned, you are the best mother that I could ever ask for. Yeah. Or, Siew.
I'm a mother, so I give you some advice. Sometimes I've asked my daughter, how do I look? Mommy, not nice. At that moment, I may feel disappointed. But I know I can always rely on her to tell me the truth. So the next time when I say, do I look good? And she says, yes, I believe her. What you can do next time when your mother asks you, do I look good? Tell her, you know how you can look better? See, you don't have to tell her she doesn't look good, but you can give her suggestions on how to look better. It's all comparative anyway. So you don't tell her outright that she doesn't look good. Okay, as long as you do not say an untruth, your intentions are good, right? You have not broken a precept. There are many ways around it, And also, can I just make a comment, brother, about what you said just now? Sometimes, I guess there's different situations, right? When it depends on opinions and views, but if there is an outright situation where the person is of the view that killing is right, but you know that killing is not right. There's an absolute right and wrong because Buddha has taught us to see cause and effect. In this case, sometimes arguing is no point. I've read somewhere a quote which I can't remember, but in effect it says this: the more you argue about something, the more you walk away from an argument thinking you are right. You know, I've never seen an argument solving problems before. That's why we have to fall back on one that Buddha taught us in the Abhaya Sutta and the Vacha Sutta, where you have to talk about something factual, something beneficial. What else? With loving kindness. But sometimes you have to choose the right time. And you may not be able at that moment to tell the person, hey, killing is wrong, because he won't believe it. He's brought up to think that killing is right. Because if he's a butcher, he has to provide for his family. He will not think killing is wrong. You know, I'm making an honest living after all. But you have to find the right time. Maybe sometimes the time may never come. Then we have just let it be. And also, in a marriage, sometimes if you can't agree to disagree, you have to reach a compromise. Then in that case, it will need a lot of skill, a lot of patience, okay, a lot of considerateness. Sometimes you may have no choice but to give in, you know. And where children are concerned, that's even more tricky, because if they hold on to their views as parents, we feel that, hey, they're going down the wrong road. Then we have no choice sometimes to come down harder on them. It may not be right, but as long as I think we don't use harsh speech, we don't use false speech, I guess whatever we say with good intentions will turn out more or less okay lah. Yes?
Sister Siew is one of the mentors of the Friday night meditation class. Yeah. Thank you for your contribution.
Okay, since we have time, I like to share also a little bit with solving this. From the question I raised to you, to the person I visit, about 15 people. So my answer, maybe I just share with you all as well. I give a bit of with a story. Ajahn Brahm sometimes answering something using a story, you know. I using, okay, now we are here in Singapore. We are going to KL, Malaysia. So we have the aim, yeah, the focus to KL. But of course, when we have different people, different opinion, we may not be able going in the same road, but maybe we aim with the same direction. So we call it intention to KL. So what we should think in here, especially in the society like Singapore, for example, with different culture and so on, different opinion. So we should be able to see it. What is the intention? If the intention is go to KL, we all go to KL, but maybe we have a different way, different time arrive. It's okay. We should shake hand. Maybe we shake hand there in KL. I'm trying to say that in the form of the story. But I agree with your explanation, your sister. Very, very deep actually. I'm just very, very shallow. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other sharing? Is it hard to exercise right speech in daily life? Not difficult, but the fourth one will be a challenge.
Hello. There are some people who commit crimes due to mental illnesses.
That is diminished responsibility under the law.
Or how about in terms of Buddhism? Would there be still be karma? Because you are born with the mental illness, you commit a crime without the...
Oh,
yeah.
If you have a mental illness, right? Okay, you talk about would there be a crime? Under the law, if you have diminished responsibility, it doesn't take away the fact you have committed a crime, except your punishment will commensurate with your situation. The court could say that you'll be committed to IMH for a period of time, and there will be re-evaluation. For precepts, for example, if the person, you say mental illness, all right, the 5 precepts, It's unfortunate lah if the person has lost the ability to control the thought processes and the mind. Okay, and caregivers will just have to do the best to protect that person and help that person, you know, by doing constant transference of merits to help in the recovery. I'm not sure what kind of mental illness, but if the person is depressed, for example, right, that can be helped. Depression simply means the mind just loop and loop and loop and loop. The thoughts just come in. It's a lot more, over 100,000 thoughts a day. Can't sleep, can't eat, just looping, 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 until the person loses the ability to even control function, thought function. Okay, yeah. I hope I answer your question. Yeah.
Okay. Any other question? Comment? Sharing?
Sister Siew Fong, you mentioned that you never consider to be a judge. If everybody thinks the same, all the lawyers, then there will be no judge in Singapore. So what's the comment on that?
For me, because I am a practicing Buddhist, I do not want to be placed in a position where I will breach my precepts.
Yeah, what I mean is if other people also are Buddhists, you know, consider, let's say, there's a case where everybody thinks it's not good to be in that position, then in that case, we will have no judge in Singapore.
That will not happen. I don't think that will happen.
Okay, maybe any other question?
I think in Singapore right now, Buddhists form only about 30% of the population. Out of 30.
So, oh, you have.
My question is this the legal aspect versus the precept. In your mind, do you think that over time some of these legal side of things will be removed?
In Singapore, once the law is there, it's there. I think it's hard to repeal any law. Because if that law gives more peace, more quiet, more regulations, it will not be removed. Hardly will be removed. You have one that was removed by very unpopular policies have been removed, but not for criminal statute law.
Okay.
I think there is some talk about changing the Women's Charter to make a provision where women will have to maintain men. Yeah.
Yes,
and it's been lobbied for over 10 years, still not successful. Yeah.
I see. Okay. Thank you.
Maybe one last.
It's not to do with crime. Even that had so much difficulty because it depends a lot on lobbying from NGOs. And you know, Singapore lobbies do not take that kind of center stage as in other countries. Yeah.
Okay, maybe one last comment, question, or sharing. One last.
Okay.
If no more, maybe. Yeah. Thank you again, Sister
Most
Siew Fong. May we say 3 sadhu to her? Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.